Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Poe, and my first video was actually gonna be an introduction video, but I realized I'm not interesting enough for that. Um, so I'll do a really quick introduction and get into what I actually want to talk about, and that is mental health. So, like I said, my name is Poe. I'm 18. I'm from the South. Um, America, obviously. Um, I just got out of high school. Um, and I like art and politics and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that's kind of really all there is to know. Like, right now, I can't say everything about me in one go, obviously. So, my video is gonna be about mental health and the way we as a society and we as individuals and the government all deals with mental health is very close to my heart. It's had a really big impact on my life personally, and I've seen the way it impacted my friends' lives and just America in general. So, I guess some background information so you guys can see my perspective. Um, First, I was diagnosed as a younger teenager with ADHD, depression, PTSD, and anxiety. I have a lot of issues around those that aren't individual diagnoses, um, but are still issues that you wouldn't think about, like paranoia, um, panic attacks, all that kind of thing. Um, so, my brother and I, when we were children, were taken into the foster system, and he already had a lot of issues because he was being abused. Before he had been abused before that, he had ADHD, anger issues, borderline schizophrenia, and my mom, I think, autism, but he was never diagnosed. So we were taken into the foster system. I was very young. He was, I don't know, he was maybe 6 years older than me, so he was maybe 8. We were separated. He was put into group homes while I was put into families. We were treated very differently, but we were both abused pretty badly. And nobody wanted him because he had so many issues, and I was bounced around between a lot of homes just for whatever reasons. And then we got out of the foster system. We moved in with our mom, sort of. He never really was at home a lot. He didn't feel welcome at home, I guess. And it created a lot of, he had a lot of issues that nobody ever addressed. And then in 2011, right as I finished the 5th grade, my brother was shot and killed. And I was there at the hospital. I watched him die. And it left me, more than anyone. My mom was really messed up, but he was my best friend. He was one of my only 2 friends, It left me, I think, more than anyone with a lot of issues. So, right after he died, I'm talking the day I went back to school after he died, I started getting in fights. I started struggling to do my work. When I started 6th grade the next year, I immediately struggled in classes. I couldn't focus. When I tried to do my work, when I tried to sit down and read, it didn't work very well. And it became apparent very fast that I had issues. And my mom tried. She tried to put me in therapy. She tried to send me to grief counseling. It was all kind of, none of it was really helpful, and none of it lasted very long. She tried to get me a 504 plan or an IEP, whatever one, for, I would have and still have, extreme meltdowns, where I get so angry that I can't function. I self-destruct. I kind of tend to scare people when I do that, because it's not my demeanor. Like, when other times I'm generally a happy kind of, not happy, but kind of a more, calm, but not an angry person. And when I do have these outbursts, people have been like, I've never seen you like that before. I had a teacher tell the SRO officer she was actually afraid I was gonna hit her. And it became very apparent that I needed help very early. And then I got arrested. I was 12, maybe I was still 11 actually. And I got arrested for having a knife on school property, and that was actually a complete accident. I was a scout, and I had my camping knife in my backpack and got in trouble for it, got arrested, sent to an alternative school, and let me tell you, the alternative school was the best school I ever went to. The teachers were more personal. They gave us incentives to do our work. They gave us incentives to get good grades. The classes were smaller, and there wasn't any bullying. I was being bullied at my 6th grade middle school. But I eventually left the alternative school and was accepted back at the school I had actually been expelled from. And after I was arrested, it changed the way people treated me and people saw me. I wasn't seen as a normal kid anymore. I was troubled. I was a bad kid. But people still also had this idea that I was, so smart, because I am. I've always been extremely smart. So they were like, you're smart, but you're bad, and you're just not applying yourself. You're not working hard enough. And so it became a pattern I fell into very early, where I would fail classes, and I would scrape by at the very end by doing as much of my work late as I could. And my teachers didn't want to help me. The counselors never wanted to help me. It was always, you're so smart, just try harder. And I was trying as hard as I could at the time. I mean, I would go home at night and it was hell, and I would go to school during the day and it was hell. And by the time I was 13, I was extremely suicidal. And that's not the kind of thing people like to admit, and it wasn't especially wasn't the kind of thing you wanted to admit back in 2013 when I was 13. You were seen as emo and attention seeking and all that kind of thing. So it was hard to admit I needed help. And when I asked for help, I never got it. And so I was in trouble a lot in middle school. And I was regularly failing classes, and I was having outbursts. And nobody helped, It seemed like nobody cared. I don't think anybody did care. I was poor. I was a foster child. I was troubled. they didn't see me as being able to do anything anyway. No matter how smart I was who I was. I was in the circumstances I was born in, and they didn't care about those circumstances. It was a rich kid school at the time. I mean, it's still a rich kid school. I got lotteried in. So I got into high school. I went to an arts magnet high school, which was better for me than a public high school would have been, because fights were zero tolerance, bullying was less accepted, so I wasn't being bullied, and I finally made some friends that I could talk to more emotionally, but it still wasn't the kind of thing where you can tell somebody, I really want to die, I want to be dead instead of going home. And it wasn't until I was a sophomore that I really met somebody that I could talk about that to, and we got really attached, and it was kind of ugly, and we started dating, and it was a really toxic relationship. It lasted 8 months, and by the end of it, we hated each other. We did nasty things to each other, and it didn't help my mental health at all. And I was still in that pattern of failing classes and scraping by at the very end. Nobody cared. We got my official ADHD diagnosis and anxiety diagnosis to try to get me learning accommodations, but it never happened. We gave them the paperwork and they never did anything with it. It was more of that, hey, you're so smart, you can read on whatever level. You've always been able to read on a higher level than the other kids. You don't need learning accommodations. I had particular problems with teachers that didn't respect me, and the grades in those classes were always lower. Whenever teachers actually seemed to care about me and help me and try to help me pass, I did so much better. So my junior year, it was the same way pretty much. My mental health went really downhill junior year. My classes were hard, but I found that I found that the teachers who cared, I passed their classes better. And then I reached senior year, and I was a mess. And I was so burned out. I was so tired that I didn't care anymore, and I didn't try anymore. And I should have tried. I know I should have tried, but I felt like everybody was telling me that no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't enough. So why would I keep trying if it's not going to be enough anyway? And I missed a lot of school because I would get physically ill and I would be too depressed to get out of bed. I missed 50-something days my senior year. I missed almost 2 months of school. And eventually one of my friends pretty much convinced me to go talk to a teacher, one of the teachers who actually cared about me the year before, and I did. And she saved my life, and she did everything she could to help me pass, and I didn't pass. I failed. I was half a credit short of graduating and it was in a class with one of those teachers who just didn't respect me. And she never tried to respect me. And when I would miss school for whatever reason, she'd be like, you just need to come to school anyway. It's like, it doesn't matter if I'm sick. It doesn't matter if I'm on the edge of jumping off a bridge. She didn't care. She didn't answer my questions. And it was altogether pretty much a mess. And I failed by half credit. And I didn't walk at graduation, and I felt like I let the teacher who had saved my life down. But I'm okay with it now. I don't care anymore. Once I got out of high school, my mental health immediately improved. I mean, I'm still depressed. I still have PTSD, and I still obviously have my issues, but my life is so much easier, even though where I am is kind of a mess. My camper behind me everything's kind of a mess, but it's easier to deal with when I'm not forced every day to be somewhere I hate, to do things that I physically can't do. And if you, obviously you don't know, I have physical health problems on top of my mental health problems. I've got joint issues where my joints hurt really bad and lock up, and I'm not able to walk all the time. Most of the time I can, but sometimes my hips will lock up and it's really, really painful and I can't get out of bed. Recently my back has been really bad. I lost my health insurance, so I haven't been able to take care of it. So it's a little, throughout high school, it got worse, and I was in a lot of pain a lot of the time, and so nobody really cared except like a couple of teachers finally started to care and started to help me. But they obviously couldn't help me with every class. You know, they had a lot of stuff to do, and the one teacher who treated me like crap, I failed. I kind of got off track, but I'm cool with it now, you know. So I was looking back at it, and I was looking at my brother's life, and I was thinking about the suicide rates in our schools for teenagers, for people my age, and I was thinking about like school shooters and stuff, and how everybody who's in one of those crises shows signs. They show signs of mental illness and not being okay, and nobody pays any attention to it. Nobody who can help cares. My brother could have been helped. My brother could have been saved. I was saved because somebody cared. My brother, nobody cared. I wasn't old enough to help him. I cared about my brother, but I wasn't old enough to help him. Nobody who could have helped him cared. His teachers didn't try to help him. He failed 9th grade 4 times. Nobody did what could have been done, and mine and my brother's situation could have gone differently. My brother could have shot someone. It was my brother's gun that shot him, you know, and we're not sure exactly what happened because they didn't really investigate because everybody was on Xanax when it happened. But my brother could have been the one that shot somebody instead of getting shot. So I was thinking about all that, and I came to the conclusion that we desperately need better health care, mental health care in America. We need the government to do what they have to do. You know, the war on drugs contributes. That's got to end. The war on drugs is not helping. It's making people worse. They've got to put something in place that allows, you know, mental health professionals in school. We had, my senior year, they finally put a therapist in our school, and she was there on Fridays, and that was it. We need someone we can talk to every day. We need teachers who can see the signs and recognize the signs and do something about the signs before it happens. And those things need to be instituted through the government, but that's also impersonal and cold and uncaring. So there's also an individual change, individual and societal, that needs to happen. And it's that people need to start caring. We don't need teachers who don't care. We don't need teachers who are gonna treat their students like shit, who are gonna disrespect them and force them. You're not gonna force a kid in a wheelchair to run track. And mental illness is it can be every bit of disability. We need accommodations for that. We need to start texting our friends when we know they're feeling down. We need to Start complimenting people on the streets. I like your shoes. I like your hair. Hey, are you okay? That kid crying in the hallway. Hey, man, you want to eat lunch with me? You alright? Parents need to start listening to their children and taking their issues seriously. When your child comes to you and says, I'm depressed, you don't laugh at them. You don't tell them you had it worse. You don't get angry at them. My mom got really angry at me. Sometimes when I was feeling really bad. She did have it a lot worse than I did as a kid. And she felt like that meant I couldn't feel how I felt. And that's gotta stop. Parents need to be their child's safe place. If your child is at a party you don't know about and feels in danger, they need to be able to text you without you yelling at them and screaming at them. If your child is having sex, of course, discourage them from it. Be like, sex is a really personal thing, but also explain to them safe sex. And tell them if they're ever not okay, they can come to you, and if they ever feel pressured to say no. We need to start being other people's safe places and listening and caring. We need to make a world that cares about people, or nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to get better. It doesn't matter how many laws you're going to put into place if nobody cares. That's what saved my life. That's what stops people hurting themselves, hurting others, and going down dark paths, is somebody caring and paying attention and doing something. So, I guess to end this, I'm gonna start making a personal change. I want to be my friend's safe place. And even people I don't know, online or something, if somebody needs somebody to vent to, or to tell that they're feeling really bad, it's hard to talk to strangers. That's the thing. You can post the suicide hotline number as much as you want, but you don't want strangers. But sometimes it's all you got. So I'm gonna start being people's safe place. And of course, when I'm feeling really bad, I'm not gonna always be able to listen and handle their issues, but as much as I can and stay healthy, I'm gonna become people's safe place and do what I can to make the world better. So, I don't really know how to end this, but I guess I'm gonna challenge you to care. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to listen to everybody's issues, but when you see somebody in pain, care. Help them if you can. Alright. That's pretty much the end of this, I think. Thanks for watching.